Hey, this is Ishar, and in today's talk, what I want to go over is the journey of self acceptance and some of these stages that you might experience when you're going from not accepting yourself to being completely at peace with yourself and having little to no insecurities at all. So, I was inspired to make this talk after reading one of my letters from this website called Future Me. And on this website, you have the ability to write yourself a letter, which will be sent to you at a later time. So this website is very useful because you can see what kind of mind state you were in at a previous time. And when I was looking over some of my letters written a couple years ago, I saw that I had a lot of insecurities. And this happened across the board. And when it came to my appearance, I was very insecure about my appearance. Namely, one was my height. I'm 5'8", and I was really insecure about that years ago. Regarding my weight, as you may know, I'm pretty skinny, and that was something I felt very insecure about as a man and compared to my peers. And then going over personality, I felt very insecure about the fact that I was an introvert. So I secretly wished that I was more outgoing and had the ability to talk to everyone like my more extroverted friends. I also resented the fact that I was a feeler as opposed to a thinker, and I didn't like that I was very sensitive and emotional. Then, when it came down to my social life, I had wished that I had closer friends, and I always felt like I was an outcast among people. Then, when it came down to my purpose, I was not really sure on what I was going to do in life, and I really hoped that I could just fit in to a certain career trajectory like all my friends. So, I had a lot of different insecurities in different domains in my life. And it's been a couple years since then, and I find that along my journey, as I started to grow, I recognized three different stages that I've gone through, and that I can also see that other people have taken, in which they transcend a lot of their problems and stop being insecure, and they're able to accept themselves 100%. So these stages of the journey to self acceptance are: number one, the insecure stage; number two, the self development stage; and number three, the transcendent stage. And in the first stage, this is where I was at when I was writing those letters, was I was in the insecure stage. And this is where you don't accept yourself at all. So you're constantly doubting yourself or comparing yourself to others, and you're basically just focusing on your perceived shortcomings. And after you go through the stage, you'll then enter the self development stage. So, this is where you stop being a victim to your emotions and your perceived shortcomings, and you take an active control on changing things about yourself. So, if you don't like the way you look, you might enroll in a gym or try to upgrade your fashion. If you don't have too many friends, for example, you may start to go out a bit more and talk to strangers and meet people you haven't met before, and you're taking a very proactive approach on your life and you're trying to transform yourselves. And many of the changes in this stage can be quite beneficial because you're taking active steps, you're being proactive, you're growing, you're transforming and improving your life in many ways. However, unless you also take the time to look deeper, many things in the stage is kind of like just applying a band aid upon your problems. And you can really see this when you start to study people a bit more. For example, when you look at people who have an insecurity in relation to their appearance, they might start to take an active interest on improving their looks. So they might hit the gym, for example, and pay a lot of attention on their physique. However, if you still fast forward a couple of years, they're still obsessed on how they look, and they're constantly looking at themselves in different angles, and or they're concerned in upholding their appearance, so maintaining their image of themselves. Or even worse, they might even attach a sense of self-worth onto their appearance. There will obviously be days where you have, bad hair day, or, you get sick and you might lose some muscle tone, for example, and you'll still have those insecurities come up. So have you really transformed that aspect of yourself, right? Or using another example, let's just say someone has an insecurity about their social life. So they feel very lonely and they want to actively go out and make friends. So let's just say they do build up a social circle, and which is a very good thing, but they spend a lot of time trying to, get more things and more friends, more opportunities, rather than dealing with the fact that they're feeling lonely. And what you'll find is that these people may start to obsess over the approval that they get from other people, and they're actually not okay with just being alone by themselves. So these are how certain insecurities start to manifest, even if you're going through a self transformation journey. And I also noticed that many people who take on different things, who try to actively change themselves, take on certain hobbies that they don't actually like in the hopes that they may overcome their insecurities. So rather than accepting themselves, they try to put on a certain image or persona. And this is something I've experienced myself, where I tried to be very ambitious or more extroverted than how I am naturally. Or perhaps I would try to be very competitive and, all that when I was really into that self-development phase of my life. And notice how I said try. So when you transition from this stage of self-development to the next stage, which is the transcendent stage, you simply stop trying to change yourself. Rather, you are completely at peace with yourself. So there's nothing you have to prove to others or prove to yourself, because that's actually coming from the ego. Rather, you learn to completely accept yourself, and there is a certain amount of peace and harmony that comes with this, where you're not trying to fight the world or fight yourself, but you can simply just enjoy yourself and enjoy your life. And you also don't spend much time even thinking about any perceived insecurities or flaws either. And you may be thinking, how do you transcend your insecurities and have complete self acceptance? The first tip is to realize that life is short and no one is actually paying attention to you as much as you think they do. And this is actually very empowering because it relieves any insecurities that are based on social feedback and approval. So, trying to look good in front of others or trying to gain other people's approval. The second tip is to align your interests and lifestyle around what is natural for you. And this is done rather than going against your natural temperament and inclinations. And one example I like to use is, for me, I try to be someone who is very hyper ambitious or extroverted or focused on money and gaining more followers, for example. Something that the self-help movement that I was into sells for a lot of young men, and I thought that was something I wanted. Instead, what I started to do was embracing my natural skills and strengths, which were my more intuitive side, my feeling side, my introverted side. And this led me to start to teach yoga and meditation, or perhaps go deeper into my interests, such as reading, as opposed to things that I weren't really into, such as going to clubs or start trying to start a business. Those things, weren't really me, so to speak. And then the next tip is to transcend the self. So paradoxically, we learn to accept ourselves by not even focusing on ourselves and getting rid of the self. And this is where the power of meditation and spiritual practices come in handy. So when you're in these deeper meditation states, you learn to start to rest more in a certain awareness rather than living from your ego or operating from your ego. And when you're in this state, there's complete peace and acceptance. There's nothing you need to prove or trying to get. You're simply happy just the way you are. And over time, all your insecurities will start to melt away. And this is the power that meditation has. So I hope you found this talk helpful. So again, the journey to self-acceptance is, first, you may start off feeling very insecure and trying to prove yourself to others and trying to change yourself. And this will naturally lead you to a period of intense self-development. However, eventually the self-development has to be let go of, although you can still improve, because you start to realize that you don't need to constantly change yourself and transform. Rather, you can accept yourself as is. And you'll find that when you do this, this is where the real power lies and all your insecurities will start to fade away. So I hope you found this helpful. Thank you.